This is an absolutely beautiful morning today. A classic late winter, early spring morning. Sun is getting increasingly higher in the sky, and as such, the temperature is rising as well. I'm at Clipstone Quarter, presently just walking through it. I'm heading up that way, up there, towards the centre tree. May well go down Broad Drive, down towards what they used to call Five Ways, then work my way up by the map of Britain. Confused? You will be. That's the first of two ravens. The second being there. These have just flown up once and are now coming back. Two ravens, now a buzzard. And here's an early 7-spot ladybird that's been warming up and is now becoming active in this late winter, early spring sunshine. I'm walking up the side of the grass strip here at Clipstone Quarter. Very sheltered here. Who knows what other little beasties are lurking in amongst the undergrowth. 7-spot ladybirds tend to overwinter in amongst the leaf litter, but they will utilise and tuck themselves into the end of pine shoots. Also gorse bushes are good, but any old dried seed heads or flower heads, docks and thistles and the like, they're all overwintering. But most commonly seen in best numbers in leaf litter that's in amongst growing ivy. The ivy obviously giving some protection. And of course this is 7-spot ladybird and extremely common. Off he goes, the start of his spring. Well, I didn't need a jumper on. I've gone burgundy today. For those of you that's colourblind, or should that be pigmentally challenged or something? I don't know. Behind me, anyway, is the magnificent centre tree. Just about my favourite tree in the forest. The major oak is extremely impressive, but I love that one. I'm presuming it's called the centre tree because it marks the centre point within the forest. Perhaps I should actually do some research for these things and find out. What I have found on the way up here is one of the old glowworm labels, and it's a small label, 258. It is. That could well be 10 years old, being a small label. And it's found in section D. I do love tracing these old glowworms. In the meantime, you can have a look at that. I'm going to walk there and we'll see if the honeybees are active. It's this aspect of the centre tree that makes it particularly interesting from a coleopterist's point of view. There are a few trees like this within the country park, and to be honest, this is the only example that I can think of currently where the tree has been split, and you can see where the bark is either side. It is slowly starting to grow over and cover this dead interior up. But it's this bit that allows the red Databook 1 Teredos cylindricus to thrive. Often seen around these areas where the tree's been bleeding. There's also a red Databook 3 beetle found on here, and that's Cortesius unicolor, which is a much nicer thing because that's red. At least it's got a bit of colour to it. One of the reasons why this tree is so special. We have seen a red Databook 2 beetle egg laying on here. This is all after dark, and that was Limexilon nival, which Dillis and I discovered new to Sherwood Forest in 2008, I think it was, during an invertebrate survey. It's since turned up on a couple of other occasions. So this is a very important tree, especially to the coleopterist. To the hymenopterist, it's not so special because it seems like the nest of the honeybee, which is just around the side here, has been vacated. They've done that before, and then a nest or a swarm has taken up residence again. It would certainly be out on a morning like this, but there's no sign. Listen to this. A bit of peace and quiet. This, of course, is Broad Drive, and I'm going to walk so far down here because on the right hand side there are numerous sallows. Hopefully one of those may reveal purple emperor larvae. That would be my aim, and I'll be having a casual look as I walk down. I'll get probably to the bottom of Broad Drive, and rather than continue on to the major oak, I'll turn right and head back up towards the edge of the forest and towards an area known as the Map of Britain. That's the plan. It really is a beautiful day. There's a light breeze, nothing to the strength that it was yesterday. And of course these Napoleonic oaks look magnificent against a nice blue sky. The majority of these lower branches on all of these oaks, and indeed the ones within the country park, are dead. You can see now these lower horizontal branches are all dead. There's so much deadwood habitat here at Sherwood that there's no need to create more. Nature is creating deadwood habitat itself. These are magnificent trees, and we're so lucky to have them in Nottinghamshire. They could easily be in neighbouring counties. Don't know how lucky we are sometimes. I just love a moss, as many of you will know. And Sherwood, especially this part of Sherwood, the far end, is particularly good for a range of mosses. I've never delved into them to any degree where I can identify any of them, but I can certainly appreciate the beauty of them. Almost like a miniature forest. Fabulous things, mosses. And if you like your mosses, say, come to the far end of Sherwood, you'll be in your element. You know, the sound of nature is a beautiful thing. Little horse beats it. I was just walking down Broad Drive and realised that everywhere was relatively quiet. The breeze had dropped and there were no people around. That's one thing that woodland offers you, peace and tranquility. You can still get it, you just have to look that bit harder. I've now come off Broad Drive and I'm heading down that way, down there, down into a quieter part of Sherwood. Not so well trodden by the public. Very few old ancients in this little section, but where I'm going to further over there and up there, in towards the Map of Britain area, there are. And it's called the Map of Britain, in case you're wondering, because when they cleared it, basically shaped like a map of Britain. Apparently. I can't see it myself, but you know what my eyes are like? It's alright, something caught my eye then. Something small that was flying. This is quite a very different part of Sherwood Forest. It has a very different feel about it, and say there are fewer old ancients here. This is the odd one, tucked away, and in fact there's one just back there, an old remnant. Most of this area though, these oaks of similar age like this. And over, just across the path there, it's virtually all silver birch, all of the same age. Not sure what was here before, I don't think it was ever a pine plantation. There's an old remnant of a stump here, but that's an old oak stump. And say the joy about this part of Sherwood Forest, of the country park, is that it's quiet. Not so many people here at all. It's more off the beaten track, and that suits me just fine. So now I'm going to continue my little wander down there, and then we're going up towards the sun. This is some oak, isn't it? Unfortunately dead now. I seem to think this is one of the named oaks in Sherwood. I'll have to do a bit more research. But obviously this oak at some time was hit by lightning, as is evident by the scorching and the burning. Probably only the fact that this was such a large tree anyway, and that is the only reason why the trunk and the body of the tree didn't explode after it was struck. Lightning absolutely shatters many trees that it hits. Not so the mighty English oak. But although this tree is now long dead, it supports an array of life, not just invertebrates, of which there were many invertebrates tucked away in here. I mean, spider webs adorn this side of the old trunk. But here again, look, you see you've got your mosses, which in this light look absolutely fantastic. And this particular species is throwing up its seed heads or spore heads. My knowledge of mosses isn't brilliant, as you've probably gathered. Well, the few flowers on this gorse are a welcome sight for those little chaps, honeybees. Almost as if I threw that one on it. But there are 2 or 3 honeybees nectaring on these gorse flowers. Can't get it over to people just how vital a nectar source in the early months of the year gorse is. It's out somewhere where nothing else is in flower. And I'm not talking garden plants, because you can get garden plants obviously that provide a nectar source throughout the year, but on your average nature reserve, gorse is a vital source of nectar. I wish we looked after and considered it more. It's just one of them plants that's just an invasive weed to management of nature reserves. Something that has to be continually controlled. If you're worried about your bumblebees and your solitary bees, this is a vital plant. Probably their most vital drink of the year is their first, once the females, the old queens, start to emerge from hibernation. Gorse is the plant that they come to. Not restricted to gorse though. I may well find an early coltsfoot already in flower on my travels back. And that's another vital early nectar source. So important, spring nectar to invertebrates. Just stepped out from the edge of the forest just there. Pretty sheltered along this southerly edge of Clipstone Quarter. But I'm going to cut back in and rejoin the path that I was on. It is a glorious day. And despite the best efforts of the breeze, it's still pleasantly warm. Even here where it's more exposed. Glorious. And just walking back down through Clipstone Quarter, and lo and behold, the first coltfoot flowers. Another vital nectar source, as I mentioned earlier on in this video. Lovely to see these out. It's just a shame the plant looks nothing, but it's a horrible looking plant for the rest of the year once it's finished flowering. And these flower spikes coming up before the leaves do. Lovely to see a bit of colour. Yet more coltsfoot. This little patch has been visited by two Episurfus balteatus hoverflies, the commonly called marmalade hoverfly. Of course, as soon as I put in an appearance, off they go. It's a beautiful day, and it's lovely just to see these poking through. They are beautiful flowers. Might just look like dandelions to you, but certainly not to an insect. They're not bothered whether they're dandelions or coltsfoot. Either way, they represent food to a huge range of insects. Well, I found a few bits, nothing to write home about. Always nice to see honeybees out and about early in the spring. It's just been a really pleasant walk. My legs certainly ache now. I think a pint is seriously the order of the day when I get back home. But there's been some warmth in that sun. A little bit of a breeze, but it's still really pleasant, beautiful day. You couldn't get much nicer a day this time of year. And now we're nearing the end of February, of course. It's plus all the way. There's some signs on some of these silver birches of bud swelling. And locally, I have seen hawthorn already starting to come out into leaf. Just not being able to stop the car and eat some yet. More about that when I do the video. Beautiful day to be out.